Going for two, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo, this is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo.
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 303 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. Follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, we are live on the Going for Two Live podcast network. We're here every Wednesday and Friday night on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, syndicated in all major podcast networks. I'm here with my co-hosts, one and a half co-hosts tonight, because Tim is feeling a little bit under the weather tonight, so we only have half of Tim tonight. But first up, we got Gerson. What's up, Gerson?
I love how you do it right when I'm going to be. What's up, man? What's up? I'm doing pretty good. Not as good as Tim, but he came through, man. I love how I didn't get the memo that it was fucking Christmas and we got to wear I just said the F word. Good job.
That might be a new record, honestly.
Yeah, we're not even like 2 minutes in and he's already dropped the F-bomb once.
I didn't get the memo that it must be because I'm brown.
No, I am fighting it off a little bit here, but I have my good friend Dallas Blonde helping me get through, so it's going to be a good show.
Nice. So if y'all see Tim turn his camera off, he might be running to the bathroom. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and get into the rewind.
The weekly rewind. Rewind.
So, Tim, when I first logged into the sheet, I found it hilarious that you'd already filled in my one good and my one bad for me.
Yeah, go ahead, filled in everything else but that. So I was like, oh, he could always change it, you know.
Yeah. Go ahead and take your one good and one bad first, Tim.
Yeah, so my one good was Jalen Hurts. I was very heavy on Jalen Hurts last week. It worked out very well for me. Unfortunately, I also had a lot of Miles Sanders, but my one bad was Isaiah Pacheco. I really kind of beat the drum for him last week. He was my, flag plant play, and obviously that didn't work out. He had a fumble early in the game, but most importantly, the Houston Texans kept it close, which means they used a lot more Jerick McKinnon. So that did not work out for me.
Yeah, I was all over McKinnon. Actually had McKinnon in a lot of lineups, so that paid off pretty handsomely for me. Gerson, what was your one good, one bad?
So unfortunately, last week was probably my worst week of the season. As a TPP bro, as I like to call it, it wasn't a good week. But I think even cash game kings, as I like to call it, did that. But it just wasn't a good week last week. My one good was definitely Dak Prescott. I was all over him, but unfortunately, he decided to throw a touchdown to a guy named Hendry Shot that I wanted to take a shot when he got that touchdown. And then what was the other guy? Noah Brown? Well, the tequila looked brown and I drank it. So that's how bad it was, man. But my one bad, I couldn't make up my mind. I looked at my list and it just wasn't a good week. And, I don't, like I've said this many times on this podcast, I don't just say the players to say them. I play the player,
Yep.
And when I lose, I lose. It is what it is. And I'm not one of those guys that's just going to go out and, oh, well, I told you to play this guy. Well, yeah, I lost money. That's it.
All right, so I'll start off with my one bad. My streak, I think, is on 3 weeks in a row now where my lock of the week has been my one bad. So whoever my lock is this week, I've just jinxed them probably. But Chris Olave was my lock of the week last week. It did not pan out for me at all. It looks like he's actually going to be out this week. So I jinxed him pretty hard there. He's actually going to miss the next game. So that's my one bad. My one good was my sick call. I had Rashid Shaheed. Still have a hard time saying his name. But he was in the Millie Maker lineup. He crushed it. I believe he has 17 points at like 3,200 or something like that. Yeah, so he did well for me. I had him in a couple of my GPP lineups. Definitely helped me out. So he was my one good. All right, let's go ahead and jump into quarterbacks.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, right here at the top, Tim, we'll go to you first here. You only have one elite quarterback listed there, so go ahead and talk about him. You're on mute, Tim.
Yeah, I do. It's Patrick Mahomes. There is Josh Allen on this slate, but obviously with the weather, I'm probably off of Josh Allen. But you just talked about the Millie Maker lineup last week. It was actually 4 Chiefs with Raheem Shaheed in the flex. I'm going right back to Mahomes again this week. Highest team total on the board. One thing is going to be a constant theme of this show is weather, right? This might be the worst weather slate of the year. The Chiefs are the only team. They're at 29.75, so basically 30 points. The next nearest team is like 3 points lower. So you're going to want to have a lot of exposure to this Chiefs-Seahawks game, and I'm going to start right at the top with Patrick Mahomes, who's going to probably be your MVP favorite now that Jalen Hurts went down.
Yep, agreed. So I have one guy from that weather game that you mentioned, Justin Fields at 7.5, and the reason why I put him there is because we don't need him to throw the ball anyway. We just need him to run the ball. That's all he's been doing all year anyway. So if he could just run it, as much as he has been lately. And I think I saw an interview with him where he was talking about the record. He's going for the record for Lamar Jackson's single season record. He knows how many yards he needs per game to get to that record. The fact that he's thinking about that leads me to believe he's going to be running the ball quite a bit this Sunday. So at 7.5, I think he's still viable. I think I'm running him naked if I play him. I'm not going to stack him with anybody. It'll just be Fields naked. So at 7.5.
I appreciate the honesty because, oftentimes players are like, oh, it's all about the team. It's all about team goals and doing good in the playoffs. And he knows his team is crap. So he's like, no, man, I'm coming for that record. That's all that's the laser.
No. He's saying, I got you, fantasy football. I'm going to carry you to the championship. Don't worry about it. You know what? The Bears suck, but I got you.
Exactly right. He's playing himself in fantasy for sure.
I love it. All right, so Gerson, you had Mahomes in your elite tier as well. So go ahead and kick off the mid tier here for us.
I think Mahomes just the best overall quarterback play. It's just for points per dollar. He's probably going to be. To me, I always say this. It's hard to figure out who you're going to stack with Mahomes, but you're going to get at least 25 points out of him. A slate like this where value is the quarterback position, the wide receiver position, and the tight end position. You might want to just pay up for Mahomes. I think that's the safest way you can go. And the guy, I think, after seeing Jalen Hurts, not gonna play, he wants to get the MVP. And honestly, this is probably one of the games that's outdoors that's gonna be probably the better chance of a better game for weather, And I believe it is cold, but there's I think 10 miles per hour wind, so it's not that bad, So I think Mahomes in this game environment is going to be a pretty good game to have. Honestly, you can never go wrong with Mahomes because he can get you 30, he can get you 40 points, But I love Mahomes in this game environment for sure. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him. I'm only playing 4 quarterbacks this week. I'm not getting cute at all.
Good.
Yeah, this is a guy last week, right? We were talking about the Saturday slate last week, and I said, don't play Matt Ryan, pay up for Kirk Cousins. And if you paid up for Kirk Cousins, it worked out for you last week. I'm going right back to Kirk Cousins this week, right? He's playing at home, and he's playing at noon, right? That's like the qualifications, and everybody's healthy. So, yeah, man, Kirk Cousins, we're talking about obviously some of the best stacking options on the slate, but at 6,300, he's right in that mid-range where you can afford to fit in all of the other guys. Mahomes is, 2,100 more, right? So it's going to get a little tougher, as Gerson said earlier, to figure out who you're going to stack with Mahomes, but it's very obvious who you're going to stack with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it's crazy going back to that Kirk Cousins game last week. I had somebody in a season-long league ask me who to play. It was Kirk Cousins or somebody else. I told him to play Kirk Cousins. And about halftime, I texted him back and was like, man, I'm sorry. I didn't know he's going to play this bad.
Dude, I was sweating that call at halftime for sure.
Yep. Second half, he went bonkers. So I ended up being right about that one. I'm gonna go to my mid tier here, and I'm gonna pick the guy that I like a lot for my stacks, and that's the other guy on the other side of that Mahomes game is Geno Smith at 5.8. Obviously, they're gonna have to pass to stay up with the Chiefs. I think Kenneth Walker misses this game, so they're not gonna be able to run the ball at all. He is missing Lockett, so he's missing one of his targets, but he does still have Metcalf there. So at 5.8, I like Geno Smith. I like him to be able to stack with Metcalf, and of course, then you can bring him back with a couple of those Chiefs guys. So Geno was my mid tier pick this week. Gerson, what do you got for your mid tier?
I think for mid tier, I think we all have the same guys basically. You know, for me, oh great, and I just found out I didn't plug in my charger for my laptop. Sorry guys. It's Geno Smith. I mean, the game environment, we're going back and forth. Mahomes, Geno Smith, 5,800. I am a little bit worried. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm worried that, well, one, if Noah Fant doesn't play, Will Dissly then. If Marquise Goodwin, I cannot believe I'm in 2022 and I care about Marquise Goodwin playing. You know, an Olympic sprinter, but apparently he can get open. But yes, if those two guys don't play, I'm out, dog. Like I'm just out. But his price tag, his mid-tier price, and you run it back in that game environment with Mahomes. I mean, let's say this is the highest. I believe this is the highest scoring game of the whole slate for sure, hands down. I know people will probably argue and say, "What about the Cowboys and Eagles game?" We'll talk about it later. But for me, it's Kansas City versus Geno Smith. Well, Kansas City versus Seattle Seahawks. I don't know, man. Like, to me, I can never believe that I would actually say that Geno Smith and Noah Fant might change the slate for me. It's crazy, right?
Crazy, yep.
I mean, it's just crazy. But to me, if Geno is that price, I'm in.
Yeah, I like it.
Well,
I do
I'll
have
tell you
one
another
more.
game that has another chance to be the highest total on the slate, and that's the Vikings and Giants game. I talked about Kirk Cousins on the other side. I also really like Danny Dimes, or as Jeff calls him, Vanilla Vic. We saw them over 70 points were scored in this game last Saturday. We know he can get you points on the ground. But I want to give a quick shout out to Justin Freeman from runthesims.com. According to Run the Sims, Daniel Jones is the second most likely quarterback to end up in the optimal lineup after Patrick Mahomes. That really kind of shocked me. I mean, I know he's playing the Vikings, and the Vikings give up a ton of points to quarterbacks, but, you know, all the good quarterbacks on this slate, I was shocked that Daniel Jones has the second highest likelihood to end up in the optimal.
Yeah, that's a good call. And I was going to mention too that, you know, we mentioned all these weather games. They're playing in Minnesota,
In
so
the
it's going to be in
dome,
the dome.
yeah.
So don't got to worry about weather in the dome. So at 5.6, he's a good pivot off of Geno, and he'll be pretty highly owned as well.
Yeah, Vegas obviously likes that one. That game opened at 45.5. It's up to 49.5.
Yep.
So like you said, I don't know if it's just everybody getting off the weather games and thinking, okay, we know this one's in a dome, but we know the Vikings love to give up points.
Absolutely. I'll kick off the value tier here with the guy we don't all have. You know, there's a guy that's pretty chalky that we'll talk about here in a minute, but I'm going to go with Sam Darnold at 5.1. Going against Detroit, we talked about it a couple weeks, you know, in a row now where they're so bad against the pass. They've given up, I think, 8 top 24 receiver games over the last 5 games. And they're kind of a funnel defense over the last few weeks. Their run defense has been really good lately, so they're kind of forcing teams to pass the ball. So Darnold at 5.1 is pretty viable. And I think I like him with a stack with DJ Moore as well. So I'll be going that route. And
they're pushing for that NFC South, right? They're still in the hunt for that division. So they're going to be, you know, both teams here are fighting for a playoff spot. That could be a really good game.
Absolutely. All right. Since Gerson just got back, I'll let you
I gave you guys a fair warning. The laptop might die.
I'll let you take the chalk guy here, Tim, and talk about Mr. Minshew Mania.
Minshew Mania, that's exactly right. Early in the week, there was some kind of people saying, oh, speculation, Jalen Hurts might not play. And I was like, guys, lock it in. Jalen Hurts is not playing. It's Minshew week. You know, there's no reason for them to play him in this game. And then obviously they confirmed Minshew was going to play. At only 4,800, somebody in the chat referred to this as the Sam Ehlinger play. I don't know if it's quite the lock that he was at that point, but I mean, I did have a stat that in games that he started, he's averaged 17.7 fantasy points. So if for a guy that's 4,800, that's more than 3 times value, he is going to be the chalk of all chalk. I think if you're playing cash games, you almost have to play Minshew. Gerson said it earlier. I think the safest play is Mahomes. So I pretty much think if you're playing games, you're either going to be playing Minshew or Mahomes. But the good thing about Minshew at 4,800 is you can basically fit in all the other higher priced guys we're going to be talking about. So we've seen over the last couple of weeks, the Dallas Cowboys gave up a pretty good game to Davis Mills. Last week, obviously, Trevor Lawrence had a great game. I think Minshew is obviously closer to Davis Mills than he is Trevor Lawrence. But either way, 15, 17, DraftKings points, man, that's all you're really looking for in cash games.
Yep, absolutely. And just to go back to that Sam Darnold thing, comment in the chat there that from Winbush J says DJ Moore has a good history versus the Lions. His 2 best career games have come versus them. So even more reason to look at Sam Darnold.
Yep.
All right, let's move down into the tight ends.
Did somebody say tight ends?
Top tier there, we have copy paste. We're not even going to mention him. We're just going to move on. Travis Kelce always in play, 8,000 versus Seattle. But Gerson.
It is probably the best matchup, though. He's always a great play, but Seattle's probably on this slate. It's the best matchup.
Yep, 100% agree. Gerson, we'll go ahead and move down into the mid tier here, and go ahead and give us one of your mid tier tight ends.
Yeah, like Kelsey's definitely top tight end, but for mid tier, for me, it's you can go one way or the other, right?
I appreciate the balls on this one, Gerson.
You can go one way or the other. Wait, what do you mean? You appreciate the balls on what? Did I miss something?
No, keep going.
I'm going Dallas Goedert, man.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with the other one. Okay.
Oh, no. I'm going the other one for sure. It's one way or the other, like I told you. I'm going Dallas Goedert, man. Either one way or the other.
You said in your intro about Peyton Hendershot getting the touchdown last night.
I know how,
like, Schultz let it all down. So I appreciate the fact that you put your balls on the table and said, I'm going right back to Dalton Schultz, man. I love it.
No, Dallas Goedert, like, to me, he's not sexy. He definitely isn't, for sure. That sounded really bad.
That did, yeah. His wife would disagree. No.
Yeah. But Dalton Goedert, the way I put it is this game environment, it can go so many different ways. You can go value, you can pay up, you can go value a running back. Like I said, this slate is very, very. If I haven't seen a slate where you can go so many different ways, it's definitely this slate.
Yeah,
because you got value at quarterback, you got value over. But one of the things that I saw earlier on, I saw a double tight end lineup with Dalton Schultz and Dallas Goedert. Maybe that's a good way you can go back and forth.
Yeah.
But both of them are going to be target monsters. They're going to get usage. They're going to get points, obviously. But again, Hendershot, good goodness, man, that sucked. But I'm going right back to him. I don't expect his ownership to be very high. But the thing is, like the way I put it, I don't know the way this game is going to go. It can go through the run game or the pass game. But I do know one thing. If Dalton Schultz is low owned, and I can get him at, what is he, 4,200? 43?
Yeah, I think it's
4,200, and he gets that one touchdown, 80 yards, he's hitting value. Again, on a slate like this, you're looking for value everywhere because you can pay up for a lot of monster running back, monster wide receiver, and basically the tight end for like the mid tier. I don't know, man.
It feels like a stars and scrubs slate. Like, I'll agree with you there. It feels like a stars and scrubs kind of slate.
Yep, agreed.
Yep.
Tim, who you got in your mid tier?
Yeah, he talked about Dallas Goedert a little bit, so I'll take the other guy I have, and that's Mark Andrews. So since Tyler Huntley took over, they played 2 games, both on the road, outdoors. Right now they get a home game, also outdoors, but they're playing the Atlanta Falcons, which are terrible against tight ends. I think this is the week. He's $1,000 less than he was 2 weeks ago when he was the chalk. So I love him. He's only $1,000 more than Dallas Goedert. And if you ask me, I think he's got a much higher ceiling. So I think a lot of people are going to be paying in that mid-range, or they're going to be paying all the way up to Travis Kelce. So I think you can get Andrews at good ownership this week. I just think it's a great spot for him, man. Like you said, Falcons give up points to absolutely everybody. And, bottom 5 against tight ends. Obviously, with Devin Duvernay out, I expect his target volume to be even higher. It's basically him and Demarcus Robinson and Sammy Watkins coming off the off the street. So I mean, it's going to be a bad look for the Ravens this week. But for a guy getting probably projected at 10 targets for 5,500, I mean, if he was a wide receiver, you'd lock him in. So I don't know why you wouldn't play him at tight end.
I like it. So I have two guys that y'all didn't have on your list here. One of them is George Kittle against the Washington Commanders at 5.3. I was pulling some stats on the Commanders, and they were showing that they're actually one of the best teams versus the tight end. So I'm back and looked at some of the tight ends that they played. They've only played really 3 good tight ends. They played Schultz when Cooper Rush was still the quarterback, and they played Goddard twice. And Goddard in both games caught a touchdown in both those games. So they just haven't played good tight ends. So I think Kittle in this game with Brock Purdy at quarterback at 5.3, no Deebo Samuel. I think he has a pretty good game. And then Dawson Knox, who was a popular choice in the offseason, had to be a breakout tight end. We kind of haven't seen it. And then all of a sudden last week, I said, oh, wait a minute. I got this guy, Dawson Knox, is pretty good. Just started targeting the hell out of him.
Yeah, that was your pick for the Saturday slate, was Dawson Knox, man. You were all over that one.
Yep, absolutely. And Dawson Knox really has come through over the last 2 games. He got 15 total targets over the last 2, touchdown in both games as well. So at 4.1, I know it's going to be a weather game there, but typically if there's a weather game, it's tight ends usually catching the ball.
The tight end, I agree.
So 4.1, I like him a lot. All right, let's move down into the value tier, Gerson. Who you got for your value?
So for tight end this week, it depends on one team for me. If Noah Fant is out, I do have interest in Will Dissly. I can't believe it.
Man, that hurts to say, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Because Will Dissly is probably I don't know, he's just that tight end that just shows up and he's like, oh yeah. But no, I mean, game environment again, his price is $2,700. It's so cheap. I'm trying to get cheap at tight end and defense. Those are the 2 positions I want to get like bargain cheap, like dumpster fire cheap, like I don't know, like the Grinch cheap, if we're gonna be Christmas shopping here. Like I just want to pay down as much as I can at tight end and defense this week. Those are the 2 positions because there's only one tight end that can break the slate on tight end, and that's Travis Kelce. And his price is $7,800. I'm correct?
He's 8,000.
Oh, he's 8,000.
Yep.
So he would legit have to get you 24 points. 24 points to meet GPP value. He can get it, but guess what? You're not going to be able to get the other stud.
Yep. All right, Tim, what do you got in your value tier?
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned the guy I really want, right? If Noah Fant plays, I'm playing Noah Fant. He had 2 DNPs Tuesday and Wednesday. He got a limited practice in Thursday. I think he's going to play. Obviously, tune in. I guess not tune in, but check out tomorrow morning the final inactives to make sure whether or not he plays. I like the Dissly call. If Noah Fant doesn't play, I currently have him in my lineup. I'm going to pivot to Daniel Bellinger. We talked about how much we like that Lions and Vikings game. He's not exactly a target monster, but it's a game environment where, they're going to be a lot of passing. He had 4 targets his first game back, or so last few games, 5 targets, 3 targets, 4 targets, right? So he's going to get you reasonable target volume for the price. He was 4,400 last week. He only got you 1 point. That's why DraftKings dropped him down 1,100. But as you just said, Washington's pretty good against tight ends. So I think he gets a much better matchup here against the Vikings. He's cheaper. And like I said, if you already had Fant, you can just swap them straight across.
Yeah, I like it. And similar to Bellinger, Bellinger's in an offense that kind of lost all their receivers basically, and that's kind of why he's been getting targets. But my cheap tight end at 2.9, Jordan Akins is kind of in the same boat. He's just basically one of the few targets that they have left. I think Brandon Cooks comes back this week, but they lost Chris Moore. Of course, Nico Collins is still out. It's basically sort of he's a last man standing at 2.9. He can fall into the end zone. He fell into the end zone last week, had 6 targets. So he's viable if you want to punt tight end as well.
Yeah, one thing I didn't mention about Bellinger is that they sometimes use him in kind of the H-back, almost fullback role around the goal line where they will give him the ball, do those little pop passes and allow him to score. He got one of the touchdowns against Green Bay that way. So he's more than just your, stand up, hand in the ground type tight end.
All right, good stuff. Let's move down into the running backs.
It's time for Running backs. Running backs.
All right, let's kick off the elite tier here. Let's go to Gerson first.
Yeah, I'm going with Christian McCaffrey. 8,800. And I think for what, well, maybe it's just me as a DFS player and a fantasy football player that owns Christian McCaffrey, but when we saw that he had that injury for like his leg, his knee, you know.
Yep, we're all worried.
We're all worried, right? Oh, I'm not worried no more. Yeah, he's getting all the usage he wants. He's getting the run CMC role, you know. I think if I want to pivot from another running back that can be very highly owned, I'm going to CMC. They're both going to be highly owned, though. It's not going to be like one or the other, but it's just like we're going back to the value. This slate has value, so you can pay up for the running back. If there's any position you want to pay up for this week, it's definitely running back because you got CMC and then you got another running back that I'm pretty sure one of you guys is going to talk about. Yeah, I mean, CMC to me, pass catcher, run the ball. He just basically that whole offense is going to him. No Deebo Samuel, Brock Purdy, or whatever you want to call him. If you want to put a wiener joke in there, go ahead, man. But CMC is just that he's the whole offense. How crazy is it that we're saying that? We're saying that the San Francisco 49ers whole offense is CMC. Like, think about it. Like, he got traded and then all of a sudden he is the guy. I have him projected for 28 points. So maybe I'm crazy, but that's what I have him projected for. He's my highest projected running back on the slate, and I might be going a little crazy this week with him, but I'm in on him, man.
Yeah, I like it. And I know he got the majority of the snaps, but Jordan Mason's also injured now too. So, I mean, they literally have no one behind him. So it's like Christian McCaffrey is going to be filling in for Christian McCaffrey, basically, what's going to happen in that game. All right, let's. We got a double drop coming up here.
Lock it in.
All right, we're doing the lock it in, and let me give the drop for this guy.
All hail King Henry. That's right. This was when you opened up the slate and you saw Tennessee versus Houston, you immediately said, I'm playing Derrick Henry because he is the principal owner of the Houston Texans. I heard that this week. I loved it. This dude, his last 4 games, you've heard the stat. He's averaged over 200 yards from scrimmage and I think 1.5 touchdowns against the Texans. I mean, earlier this year with Malik Willis, right? A lot of people are concerned Malik Willis is going to start this week. No, Malik Willis was a starter in the last time they played the Texans, and he had what? 38 DraftKings points. You saw the clip of Mike Rabel on the sidelines. Guys, we're just going to give it to Derrick. Every play, we're going to give it to Derrick. It's the exact same game plan this week. Nothing is going to change, right? The Houston Texans have been a little bit better over the last few weeks in terms of their pass rush, which means teams are just going to go. I mean, we saw McKinnon had 35 points last week. A couple weeks ago, the Cowboys, both Zeke and Pollard did well. The game plan against the Texans has not changed. You run the ball, and who better than in D. Hember, King Henry?
Nice.
D. Hember, baby. You know what? When I saw King Henry for Texans, I'm like, well, you know what? G loves beer. The grass is white because it's December. And, ooh, did you feel that? It's called Derrick Henry running all over the Texans.
Yeah, it seems like it's the easiest play on the slate, man.
He's got a streak of, 4 straight game plus yards against them?
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. Like, can you imagine the Texans defense are like, oh, who do we got this week? Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Now, I want to play devil's advocate.
I actually posted a picture of the Paloma running from the Bulls. Right, and that's the Texans defenders running from Derrick Henry. Just like trying to get out the way. They don't want to be Josh Norman, right? Get put on another highlight reel.
Exactly. So I want to quickly play devil's advocate here real quick, Tim. They're actually going to be without 2 offensive linemen. Any worry there? They're center and I think they're tackle.
I did see that. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I'm really not. I think that they're going to have a game plan in here. But
so
yeah,
I saw that, and the reason why I'm not too worried, just like Tim isn't, you're not going to rely on Malik Willis. I don't know if you guys know this, but Malik Willis has the worst expected fantasy points of the season. Like, his stuff is bad. Like Davis Mills is better than him.
Yep.
Like that's how bad it is. Like I'm pretty sure I respect Mike Vrabel. I think Mike Vrabel is very straightforward. He tells you what he's gonna do. He's not gonna show you what do you call it? I don't play poker, bluff, or what do you call it?
Right.
It's not going to show his hand.
Yeah, he's just gonna show his hand. He's gonna tell you, hey, we're gonna run the ball down your throat and we're gonna play defense.
Yep.
And that's you don't need to do anything different because it's just by playing defense against the Texans, you already won, you know?
Yep.
And when you got a guy like Derrick Henry, I mean, I've never felt more safe to put a lock button in my roster than Derrick Henry.
Yep.
Against the Texans.
Tim, I'm gonna go back to you just for that one last elite guy you've got there because I want to talk about the mid tier when we get to me. So go ahead and talk about Dalvin Cook real quick.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook. I mean, he's gonna be popular. You know, this, as Gerson said earlier, it's a pay up for running back type week. The best running backs, the top price running backs are in the best spots. New York Giants have given up more than 100 scrimmage yards to the last two rushers. We saw obviously last week what he did against the Colts. They're using him more in the passing game over the last few weeks. He's averaging 4 or 5 targets, which is about what you want from a running back. Anytime you're looking at about 20 projected touches and you're playing a team like the Giants, I think you got to go for it. You know, Giants actually, and this was surprising to me, they are now 31st DVOA against the run, right? So, I mean, they've just gotten progressively worse as the year has gone on. And Dalvin Cook, they've been using him more and more, right? Alexander Madison's kind of been put in that reserve role, right? They're giving him all of the volume. So, yeah, I see the screens. I see the running game. They obviously use him around the goal line. I love Dalvin Cook. If you're going to probably be playing Henry. You're going to be playing CMC. But if you want to punt the other positions and, cram in Dalvin Cook, we used to call it jam him in, right? Team jam him in. This is definitely a team jam him in week.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna kick off the mid tier here with a guy that I didn't have on my list originally, and then listening to a podcast, they gave me a stat that I had to go back and just double verify to make sure it was correct, and it was. So it's Miles Sanders at 6.2 versus Dallas. So twice this season, Miles Sanders has had 11 or fewer touches in a game, and both times after that game, Nick Sirianni, the head coach, came out and said he needed to get the ball more to Miles Sanders. And then the game following those two games, Sanders had 17 for 93 and a touchdown in one of them, and then 17 for 144 and 2 touchdowns in the other one. He came out again this week and said he needed to get more touches for Miles Sanders, who had 11 touches again this past weekend. And I think that's going to be the same case here. We're going to see a ton of touches for Miles Sanders against Dallas Cowboys. It was the 20th DVOA versus the run right now. So, yeah, I'd love me some Miles Sanders this week. Go ahead, Gerson.
Can I high five you right now? How do we do this? That way. Dude, I thought I was the only person that loved Miles Sanders this week, but then I realized one thing. To add on to that, there's no Jalen Hurts. Gardner Minshew is not going to run the ball at the goal line.
Man, Miles Sanders going down at the 1 last week, and then Jalen Hurts punching it in and then ending up messing up his shoulder was just the tilt of all tilts.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know what? Miles Sanders, you little big. How do you not care about our fantasy team? Screw you. Mm-hmm. But anyways, this week, you better care about the fantasy team.
And Aaron, in the chat, you say tough matchup, but the Dallas Cowboys actually haven't been very good against the
run. No, last 3 weeks.
Yeah, they've been bad against the run. They're down to 20.
They've been bad
now. Yeah, they used to be good in the beginning of the season, but they've fallen off a little bit lately. And that's kind of how you.
I think they're allowing 4.9
yards per game plan. I mean, we talked about Minshew. Like, I think he's a good play, but their game plan going into this game is going to be run the ball and play defense.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm trying to win money. You know that, right?
Yeah.
So let's just hope Minshew Mania goes crazy.
Gotcha.
All right, Gerson, kick off our mid tier here.
Well, I definitely love the Sanders call, but I think I'm gonna go to honestly, I think I'm gonna live and die by this guy for the rest of the season. J.K. Dobbins, man. Atlanta Falcons are one of the worst pass run defense in the league, and it's not gonna change because obviously when you put Desmond Ridder in there, it's bad, dude. That defense is going to take care of business, man. And Tyler Huntley doesn't look too good. He hasn't. And they're just going to rely on J.K. Dobbins. The usage hasn't been what I want it to be, but I always say efficiency is the best thing ever, right? And Dobbins making the best of it. Like he's actually, I think his yards per carry is over six yards per carry.
Yeah,
But
since he's been back, he's
killing it. He's killing it. He's getting the usage. What he's making the best of his usage. But the Atlanta Falcons are just a bad defense, of course. But I'm depending on two things: turnovers from Desmond Ridder, opportunity, and usage for J.K. Dobbins. And the thing is, if they get a turnover, they might be in their own red zone, right away. And Dobbins is definitely going to get the goal line work and everything. And to me, I love this game. I know people are probably going to want to play. They're going to pay up for running backs, but if there's one running back I'm going to pay down for, it's definitely Dobbins. I don't think I'm going to get any cuter than that, though, to pay down, man.
Yeah, you definitely ain't getting any cuter, that's for sure.
Tim,
who you got in your mid-tier?
Yeah, I only have, we talked about Jerick McKinnon. I mean, I'm going back to the well here, right? Like we saw last week that this is the guy they prefer to use. I mean, he has highest snap share of the year. His passing game usage has been absolutely insane, right? Which is what we look for in PPR scoring. He's only going to get you 8 to 10 attempts on the ground, but last 2 weeks he had 9 targets and 8 targets, right? If the Seahawks are able to keep this game close, they're going to keep McKinnon in the game. The only concern I have is, if this game gets out of hand, they might make it the Pacheco show. But we thought that was going to happen against the Texans, and it didn't. So I'm pretty confident this is going to be another McKinnon game. 34 points over the last 2 weeks, and he's only 5,900. So I love the Dobbins call. I think he's right in there with McKinnon.
Yeah, I like the Dobbins call as well. I have him in most of my lineups I've already built. I'll move down here into the value tier, and it was just mentioned in the chat by a Facebook user. I don't know who that is, but DeAndre Swift at 5.5 versus Carolina. Carolina's 21st DVOA versus the run. Swift has been getting a little bit more usage. Unfortunately, not the red zone usage that we want to see. They're still going to Jamal Williams down in the red zone, so we need Swift to sort of score from about 30 yards out for us to get that touchdown. But his pass catching ability, of course, is still there at 5.5. He's definitely viable. He's
is this who I think it is? Is this Taylor Robinson?
That's absolutely Taylor.
For the first time in the whole GF2 show, he comes in and said, "Join me on an island."
Pacheco Island. I like it.
Pacheco Island. I like that. It's actually exactly flipped of last week. Last week, Pacheco was the chalk and McKinnon was the GPP play. This week it's the opposite. McKinnon is the chalk. Pacheco.
Hey, you know what? With Mahomes, it's Mahomes, right? Like he can blow out any team. So
absolutely,
it could be a very good contrarian take. I'm not gonna go off that. I will have Pacheco and I will have McKinnon. I think I'm gonna do between them two. I'm probably to be a contrarian and be a GPP bro. I will have higher exposure to Pacheco. I get it. It's probably not the smartest thing, but that's the way you win GPP. It's just you
guys know I love recency bias, right? Anytime a guy burns you the week before, you play him the next week.
Yep, 100%. All right, Tim, you got one guy in your value tier where I have the same backfield but a different guy. Talk about Singletary.
Yeah, Devin Singletary. This one is just really a weather game play, right? Like we know Chicago is terrible against the run. Last week, obviously, we were talking about Miles Sanders. A couple got vultured by Jalen Hurts. It's entirely possible that Devin Singletary could get vultured by Josh Allen. But they've seen when they want to run the ball, when they keep the game close, they're using Devin Singletary, right? So I think, consistently when, his snap share has gone up almost every single game. The one game where they kind of let James cook a little bit. But I think it's back to the well here with Devin Motor Singletary. I actually love the Swift call. He's probably my favorite guy, 5,500 and below. But I always say, how many times have you built a lineup and it's perfect except you're $100 over? Well, if you do that with Swift, I think you can drop down to Singletary, still have a great lineup, and not have to change anything else.
Yeah, I like Singletary as well. But if you truly want to punt, I'm taking his teammate in the backfield, and that's Cook at 4.9. Same reasons you just gave. It's a weather game. I know Cook's more of the pass catcher. He'll catch those short passes, screen plays, those kind of things, and he has just as much opportunity to score a touchdown as anybody else. Obviously, he could still be vultured by Josh Allen as well. But at 4.9, the savings is good enough that I think I can definitely put him into a lineup and still feel comfortable with him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move to the receivers.
And now, wide receivers.
All right, Tim, you only got one elite guy there, so go ahead and kick it off.
This was almost my lock of the week. I'm not bullshitting. This was almost my lock of the week because every time I call Justin Jefferson a fake ass wide receiver one, he breaks the slate every time. So this time I'm going to once again call him a fake ass wide receiver one because he gets an excellent matchup against the New York Giants at home. Basically every number one receiver this year has absolutely killed the New York Giants, right? Even we saw Terry McLaurin break the slate against the New York Giants. So I'm going right back. He's 9,300. He's the highest priced guy on the slate. He's more than Henry. He's more than CMC. But, you know, going back to what I was saying earlier, he's in a bunch of the optimal lineups, right? And I think, you know, he's not going to be nearly as high owned as some of the other guys because people are wanting to pay up for those running backs. He's not going to go unowned, right? Justin Jefferson's never going to go unowned again. But, I mean, at 9,300, right, if he was 85, like he'd be a lock button for a lot of people, but they see that 93 and they're like, well, think about Cooper Kupp last year, right? That's the kind of usage this guy is getting, right? 12 targets a game, 14 targets a game, 15 targets a game, right? You have to pay up for that kind of volume. And in this, if everybody's going to be playing Henry and CMC, they're not going to be playing Justin Jefferson. That's the week I want to play him.
Yeah. Did y'all see that graphic with Jefferson's stats? And it was like seasons with 1,600 plus yards.
Yes.
And it had all these good receivers listed, like, 12 years in the league, 2, 3 years in 13 years in the league. They had, 2. And then Jefferson, who's been in the league for 3 years, already has 2 of those.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy to think.
Absolutely insane.
All right, Gerson, you got an elite guy there that I hadn't actually considered. I want to hear your take on Chase.
So, Tim, I see your Justin Jefferson. Well, I'm going to up it. Jamar Chase, man. I get the whole method that, New England shuts down the number one wide receiver. I've been doing this DFS stuff for like 7 years. Like, I get it. People think it's a thing. It really isn't. It really isn't. They don't do it against the elite. They do it against like an average wide receiver, like an Allen Robinson. They do it against like like just a mid-tier wide receiver. But we're talking about the elite. There's 2 elite players, in my opinion. There's a tier of Jefferson and Jamar Chase, and then everybody else.
Yeah.
Those are the elite right now in the NFL.
Justin Jefferson had 32 points against New England. So I'm right there with you.
Yep.
And the thing is, Chase right now, he ranks 6th amongst wide receivers in expected fantasy points at 49%. I mean, I'm not gonna get cute with this. He's gonna get all the targets. I don't know how healthy T. Higgins is. To be honest, he hasn't looked good lately. And then we're going to Tyler Boyd. I think Burrow's just gonna chase. Oh my God! I just said chase. Chase. You know what?
Pun intended. Yeah.
No pun intended. But I think Chase is just gonna get all the points. And again, I'm getting what, a $1,000 discount?
Yep.
Yeah.
I might have to go with Jamar Chase.
Discount.
And on a slate like this, we've been saying it over and over, guys. You want to get value. You want to get value. I love Justin Jefferson. Don't get me wrong. Honestly, I have a $1,500 league. I hope Justin Jefferson blows up for freaking 45 points. Yeah. But the thing is, with an $8,300 league, $8,300 wide receiver to a $9,300 wide receiver, I think I'm gonna take Chase.
Yeah.
And it's hard though. Like it's hard.
$1,000 means a lot on this slate. That I completely agree with you.
But I'm gonna go with Jamar Chase, and I'm not scared about Bill Belichick. Come on, Bill Belichick. His dog has more relevant right now.
I know. He's saying, "Come at me, bro." That's what he's saying.
All right, I love it. All right, let me give you my guy.
Lock it in.
So if the last 3 weeks have been any indication, this guy is a guy you do not want to play.
You're scaring me making this little lock, Jeff. You're really scaring me.
Jeff, it's going to break out. It's going to break out. Have confidence,
I'm hoping if I say it out loud that I've jinxed him for the last 3 weeks, that it'll reverse the jinx and it'll be like an opposite jinx. So it's going to be
just
DK
call him
Metcalf.
a fake-ass wide receiver one. It works every time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
this show's too
DK
good.
Metcalf at 7.1 is tremendously underpriced in my opinion. Obviously, we have no Tyler Lockett's not going to be there, but even with Lockett in the game, these are his targets over the last 4 weeks: 9 targets, 10 targets, 8 targets, 15 targets, and on top of that, he leads the league in end zone targets too with 19. So he's getting the valuable targets down underneath. So at 7.1 in a game where they're going to have to pass the ball a ton. Metcalf could have one of those 11 plus 12 plus target games easily at 7.1, and it's an easy smash for me in that environment. So
hey, just to add one more thing to that, we saw a few weeks ago Jerry Jeudy was the only person left for Denver, and we said, oh, they're definitely going to figure some way to double cover Jerry Jeudy. He had 33 DraftKings points and break the slate. So if Jerry Jeudy can do it, tell me why DK Metcalf can't do it.
100% agree. All right, Tim, what you got in your mid tier?
Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm still.
I was gonna say the same thing.
It's Devonta Smith, right? That I mentioned him last week. I'm going right back to him again this week. I know Dallas Goedert is back, but I actually think that helps him this week because if there's Dallas Cowboys, they lost their number 2 corner. They're now playing their number 4 corner on the right because they had to move the other guy to the slot. So this guy's basically Kelvin Joseph. He is a punt return specialist, right? This dude plays on special teams, and he's starting for them at corner right now. So I think he's going to see a lot more of Devonta Smith. I don't think Trayvon Diggs is going to shadow A.J. Brown, but I think he's going to see him in primary coverage. So I think this sets up as a great spot for Gardner Minshew. I think his target tree matches up really good against Dallas, the way they're trying to defend. I think this could just be an absolute killer spot for Devonta Smith. When I first plugged in my first look lineup, and I said, who am I going to stack with Gardner Minshew if I'm going to do a double stack? Minshew, Goddard, Devonta Smith.
Here's the way I put it. What did Trayvon Diggs struggle against? Fast-ass wide receivers.
Yep.
That just get open. And I'm not saying get open Devonta Smith. He's just cool. He's like a straight wide receiver, right? Yep. He runs that 9. Is there a 9?
9 route, yeah. 9 route,
A 9 route. Go. What does Gardner Minshew just say? Well, fuck it. I have nothing to lose. Let's go.
Yeah. He's down there somewhere.
Yeah, he's down there somewhere. And then when AJ Brown, what does he do? Oh, let's just do the.
And he's gonna go full Uncle Rico and be like, I can throw the ball over the mountains, right?
Uncle Rico. Hey man, when I saw the cover of this show, I was like, Jeff, I'm so disappointed in you, man. I mean, Gardner Minshew has so many other photos, but honestly, I love that card, Tim. To be honest, I was thinking, how am I going to get different with Gardner Minshew? And I think Devonta Smith is definitely the way you get different. Because people are going to be like, oh, Dallas Goedert's coming back. Guess what? He's 4,600 or however much he is. Oh, I save money. Well, AJ Brown's the best wide receiver on that team. What about Devonta Smith, man? Seriously, he Trayvon Diggs. That guy will allow wide receiver like Devonta Smith to get that 80-yard touchdown.
Absolutely,
I would not be shocked. And honestly,
one thing I was going to say too is, going back to Tim's point of Diggs not shadowing. I looked it up, and he basically stays on the one side 85% of the time.
Yeah.
And Smith lines up on the, I think 57% of the time he lines up on the opposite side of Diggs. So he won't even see Diggs as much as he normally.
No, between the slot and the right side, he's basically.
Wait. So honestly, one of the best things about us three, is that we have private chat row. Tim, you gotta share that message to the people. With your mom, dude. Just do it.
Hey, I gotta save something for the show, man. I can't give it all away.
Yeah. All right. So let's go mid tier here, Gerson. Who you got?
Ooh, sorry. DJ Moore. I mean, you're the best matchup of the week, right? One of the best matchups. When we always look at Detroit Lions, what do we look at? Pass. They're going to pass the ball. Who's the quarterback? We're not playing Sam Darnold. Fuck no. But we are going to play the wide receiver, DJ Moore. They had a defensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, but he improved the run defense. He hasn't improved the pass defense. Like I always say, salt to the wound. You can't improve everything, but I'm gonna play a lot of DJ Moore, and and the thing is, he's coming right now at 27.6 ownership for a wide receiver. He's gonna be the highest owned wide receiver for his price tag. I'm gonna play him. I don't think that's definitely a bad play, but I'm gonna eat that chalk. There's not a lot of chalk I want to eat this week, but him and King Henry are definitely one of the two I want to eat.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, if I can add one thing to that, so since Steve Wilkes took over, Sam Darnold last couple of weeks, they've been running DJ Moore more in the slot. And all year long, we've been targeting slot receivers against Detroit. Last couple of weeks, he's had 68% of his routes from the slot. So if they're going to be playing him in that optimal position, Sam Darnold's got that low ADOT throws, and two of his best games of his career have come with Sam Darnold. So, I mean, I think everything kind of lines up here, right? Pass funnel defense, bad against the slot. He's moved into that position. I think 5,500 is the right price, and I agree it's going to be very chalky. But the other options in that mid-range are not pretty, right? Yeah. So I don't know how you don't play DJ Moore, particularly in a cash game. As GPP, right, you got to switch it up. But to me, he seems like almost a lock in the mid-range.
Agreed. I have two more mid-tier guys I'm just going to mention, and I'll move down into the value. I have the Sun God at 7.8 in that same game versus Carolina. It's a great comeback option if you're going to play anything in that game. And then Juju at Seattle, 5.8. I think he got 21 targets over the last two games, and the Seahawks, of course, are bad against the pass, 28th DVOA versus the pass. So Juju's definitely in play at 5.8.
Yeah, he got banged up with that concussion a few weeks back, but ever since he's been 100%, dude, they've been rolling him out consistently target volume. Like I said, he was in the optimal last week. So yeah, I completely agree. I love the Juju call. If you're going to stack Mahomes and you're not going to have Kelsey, you better have Juju.
Agreed, 100%. All right, Gerson, kick off the value tier here for us.
I mean, this week is all that value, right? I know, like, it sucks because, Drake London, man. Just hear me out. Please, don't attack me. I know I said that Desmond Ridder sucks and everything, but when you get Drake London, one of the best prospect wide receivers this year's draft, at 4,800, I think I'm going to eat that, dude. I think I'm going to get some of that. He got targeted last week quite a bit. But the thing is, it wasn't a good target. Because Desmond Ridder definitely overthrew him 3 times, and it was bad. But the way I put it, Drake London, if he gets detected Drake London. Hold on. Jeff would say, please let the crowd know what's going on. And I'm going to say, Detective Drake London, Scott, on a chat row, just said that. No, I mean, Drake London to me is probably one of the best wide receivers in this draft. But the thing is, I'm just going 4,800. I'm going very cheap on a slate like this. I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about the cheap value wide receiver, but there's Drake London. There's a lot of other wide receivers with weather conditions. I think I'm just trying to get cheap at tight end and defense, and that's it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to get too cheap. There is good options at wide receiver value, but like when you're building your GPP roster, you have to correlate and all that. It just depends what you're going to correlate with.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our wide receivers that value are more like one-off.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, and that London call is actually a good call. I looked him up just now because I didn't have him on my list at all. And he had 12 targets in week 13 and 11 targets last week. You definitely can't sneeze at that for 4,800 for sure. That's a good call.
They got that rookie connection.
Absolutely. All right, Tim, what you got for your value?
All right, I'm going to talk about 2 guys, but one of them is real quick. And as Gerson talked about him at the top of the show, right, Marquise Goodwin, right? This guy is kind of going to make or break the slate in a lot of ways. because at 4,300 filling in for Tyler Lockett, he looked to be the absolute chalk value play at the beginning of the week, but then he kind of got hurt, right? He's limited in practice. I think he's going to play, but I don't think he's the smash button lock play that he was Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. But I think if you're going to get some exposure to that Kansas City-Seattle game and you're looking for a cheap play that's not your boy DK Metcalf, you're going to go with Goodwin. The guy that I really want to talk about is Jahan Dotson, right? And this is somebody that early in the week, I really thought I was the only person who was going to play him. And as the week has gone on, he's gotten more popular, right? I thought he was actually going to be like low enough to be a sit call, but then I looked at some of the ownership and I was like, nah, he's not a sit call anymore. He's popular. So last 2 weeks, he's had 9 targets and 6 targets. Not great, right? But last week, he had 105 yards, including a 61-yarder. He's had touchdowns in the last 2 games. It seems like Taylor Heineke's got a little bit of a connection with him, right? When he was out, it was basically just the Terry McLaurin show, right? He'd look up, find Terry McLaurin, and throw it to him. But, you know, it looks like they're getting a little bit more varied. And we know you're 49ers, right? You don't beat them on the ground. You beat them through the air.
Yep.
So, I mean, you know, we expect Washington to be behind this game, right? They're going to have to throw the ball. So he's going to get that same kind of 6 to 9 targets that we've been seeing. If he breaks another long one at 3,900, he's going to absolutely smash value. So like Gerson said, in this slate, you have to find the low value guys that have that ceiling so that you can fit in all the rest of your high price studs.
Yep, and I've said it before too. We struggle on the slot, and Dotson lines up in the slot quite often. So,
yep, and he's kind of taken over from Curtis Samuel. That was one thing I looked when I was looking at their snap shares over the last couple of weeks. Right, it used to be
Dawson's so much more talented than Curtis Samuel for sure. Though.
Absolutely, he's completely taken it over. Last 2 weeks, 80% in terms of snap share. So yeah, Curtis Samuel is now the third option. Dotson is clearly the number 2.
All right. I'm going to talk about Richie James at Minnesota at 3.9. And this is really just
Rick James, bitch.
Rick James, bitch.
I guess
I need to get a drop for that one. At 3.9, this really comes down to being one of the only few receivers that they even have healthy.
Oh, Tim.
So we have, Richie James, one of the few receivers they have healthy, obviously playing in a dome at 3.9. Minnesota will score points. I mean, the Giants got to keep up. So I think Richie James is as good a value as any at 3.9. So I have him in my value. And Gerson, I want to go to you because we had the question in the chat again from Facebook user that I'm not sure who that is, but he's asking
that's definitely fake ass wide receiver 1. Fake ass Minnesota Vikings fan. Fake ass they're going to go to the Super Bowl. It's definitely Jared. I guarantee you.
He's the official bartender of going for 2 for sure.
Yeah.
But he's asking about Rashid Shaheed, and I'm off of Rashid Shaheed because of the weather there. But what are your thoughts? Because you have him listed on your list.
I understand that, but here's the way I put it. In the NFL, you can't just run the ball the whole time, right? Unless you have fucking Derrick Henry against the Texans. But I guarantee you right now, I don't even know what's going on with Nick Chubb. Is he out? What's going on with him?
No, he's going to play. Chubb's good to go.
He's playing, yeah.
Chubb's good to go. But not Jared. I know Matt. What's up, dude? Matt, cool. So Rashid Shaheed. Olave is out. They've been talking about getting what's his name? Taysom Hill involved. But guess what? Taysom Hill's not going to solve this, dude. Because one, I think the Cleveland Browns are going to pull out ahead. Their defense is better. The run game is better. They're going to go out ahead. And when this happens, they're going to have to pass the ball. I really do believe that the Browns are going to go up before the first half. They're going to go up 21, maybe to 3. They're going to blow them out. And when they have to, the Saints are going to have to come back. 3,800?
Yeah.
3,800?
Yeah, I don't have him on my list, but yeah, I think
3,800 for Shaheed. I mean,
no, he's 3,500.
3,500 for Shaheed? That's probably the cheapest value you're going to get at wide receiver. And I don't mind Dawson. I love the Dawson call, but if I got to save, I think Dawson was 3,900, right? If I got to save $400 for Dawson, from Dawson to Shaheed, I'm going to go to him. Shaheed right now, I tell people this. I don't worry too much about weather until actually I think weather is one of the biggest things in DFS that people get worried about too much because think about it last week. That Buffalo Bills versus Miami Dolphins game,
Yeah.
nobody wanted to play, right? Faded and all this. Well, they ended up scoring almost over 50 points.
True, but the weather didn't show up though. It didn't show up until the second half. I'm still off that game. 50 mile per hour winds is a
That's what
lot,
I was gonna
especially for
say.
Andy.
Consistent.
Andy freaking Dalton is the quarterback there. He throws little live passes when it's beautiful outside. He throw a live pass weather like that.
Yeah, we
that
always
ball-
talk about, right? It's the wind that matters, and it's 25 to 30 mile an hour sustained winds with 50 mile an hour gusts. Like I think that actually makes a difference.
Yeah, I'm scared of that.
I still agree though. At 3,500 and he's the only guy there. Like I think it's
what's his ownership right now, Shaheed? Let me look it up because that doesn't the ownership matters to me a lot.
It does, yeah.
Especially on something like this. Go ahead and talk about some of that. Let me find it.
All right, let me talk about another one of my values, and I'm gonna talk about a guy that I mentioned earlier is coming. I think he's coming back this week. Brandon Cooks at 4.9.
Should be back.
I think Chris Moore has been officially ruled out. Last I checked, I think he's ruled out. Nico Collins is definitely out. I think Chris Moore was pretty questionable, if not doubtful to play.
I think he's still questionable. I think he may play. Yeah, but he's going to play the Nico Collins role if Brandon Cooks comes back.
Agreed. And at 4.9, you're getting Brandon Cooks there. Davis Mills has played better over the last couple of games, and with Cooks, being basically the best receiver, I think there in Tennessee, if he's back and he gets his targets at 4.9, I think he's a steal. And Tennessee, we know, is great against the run, not so much against the pass. So I think Cooks is very viable at 4.9.
So he's coming in at 8%.
Yeah,
8%. Not that high, but I mean, on a slate like this,
yeah,
GPP value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely see him in TPP value. I just don't see him. He's a big play receiver that gets down the field, and I just don't see that happening. He's not going to run the slants. He's not going to run the dig routes. He's just going to the house every time, and I just don't. I don't know. Personally, I want you to be right because I have him in my dynasty league, and I want him to break out. He's sitting on my
no. First off, you want to be right because he was your sick call last week.
It was my sick call last week. Yes, absolutely.
Hey man,
I know. If there was ever a viable week to play a sick call, man, it was probably last.
You know what I always say about this stuff like this, like when you want to be right, but you might be wrong. But when you're wrong, you might be right. But here's the way I put it, Jeff. Shaheed is 3,400. You're not going to lose.
You're right.
Your roster because of him.
100% right.
You're going to lose your roster because of other choices you made. And I always say this to people, like when they tell me, "Oh, your sick call of the week was this," I'm like, "Hey man, it's a sick call of the week, but it is what it is." But whatever you put around that sick call of the week, it better be goddamn good.
Right.
All right, we got to move on from Rasheed.
Got to hit anyway.
We've dedicated a whole segment to Rasheed.
Real quick, last guy I had on the sheet was Demarcus Robinson at 4K. We talked a little bit about the target volume shrinking for the Ravens. This guy's actually had pretty consistent target volume over the last few weeks. And at 4K, like I said, you don't need a whole lot. So the other guys we've talked about, the only other guy we didn't have on the sheet was Isaiah Hodgins. Again, this is another one of the Giants receivers, another cheap option. Just another exposure to that Vikings game. I think they're all viable, but I think the guys we really like, we talked about at the top.
Agreed. Let's get to defenses.
Defense.
All right, Tim. Gerson added a I don't know if you saw it or not, so don't talk about that first defense there. Give us your second defense.
Yeah, man, this one is really tough, right? I think Gerson talked about it. You want to save money at defense this week. So even though I think that they may end up losing this game, I'm probably going to play the Eagles at 2,200. I talked about it earlier. We were talking about Miles Sanders.
Wait, you think the Eagles are going to lose this game?
I do. Yeah, I think the Cowboys.
Oh, hell no.
But I think that they're going to keep it close. I do. And I think that they're going to do that by, I love Minshew Mania, right? I hope he goes off. It's the end of the show, right? I hope he goes the fuck off, okay? I really do. Because I'm going to have a lot of Gardner Minshew this week. But I think their game plan going into this game is going to be run the ball and play defense. So if at 2,200, they're underpriced. Like, that's just my opinion. I don't, you guys know I don't really play FanDuel. I looked up FanDuel. They're like the 5th highest priced defense on FanDuel, and they're the 3rd lowest priced defense on DraftKings.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a misprice or if they got some kind of knowledge early on that Minshew was going to play before the slate came out. But I don't see how you don't. We'll talk about Gerson's guy here in a second, which I think is a great play. But I love the Eagles. I think that they have a good ceiling for 2,200, and I don't think that they're going to be super popular. Obviously, we get closer tomorrow. But I mean, we always say, and I've said this week in and week out on this show, the way you win in tournaments is by playing a non-chalk defense. I'll give a huge props to Gerson. Last week he said, the way you win this week is to fade Herbert and you play Henry with the Titans defense, right? Henry in the Titans defense was in the optimal lineup last week. So this week, if everybody's going to be playing the passing game, you play the defense and hope the rest of it shuts down.
Good stuff. I like it.
Lock it in.
All right, Gerson, your lock is a defense this week. Give us your defense lock.
Hey,
I love it, by the way, G. It's my favorite.
Every morning I wake up, go to work, stop by the gas station, get 3 monsters, and that's it. I started heading down to my work. And there's a gentleman that said, hey, what are we going to play a defense? In our chat room, I'm like, he's like, well, actually, his name is Scott. He's like, what are we going to start at? I'm like, oh, easy for me. Bears defense, $2,000. And then Taylor Robinson, T-Rob, are you serious? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm serious.
Fuck yeah.
So, Chicago defense at home, they do pretty well. Weather conditions bad.
Yep.
Justin Fields, like we said earlier on, he's just going to run. He's going to run and run. So when you run the ball, the clock kind of eliminates very quick, right? And the way I put it like this, bad weather condition, $2,000 for a defense. Yes, I get it. It's the Bills. They're gonna score. They're gonna score points. But go look up the biggest turnover quarterbacks in the league. Josh Allen's top 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're not gonna believe it. Josh Allen's top 5. I'm not looking for 20 points. I'm not looking for 15 points. I'm not even looking for 10 points. I'm looking for maybe 7 points.
Yep.
At $2,000, and like I've been saying from the beginning of the show, the 2 positions you want to save at is tight end defense. Because at tight end, there's only one player that can destroy the slate. His name is Travis Kelce. A defense, I don't think there's one defense that can destroy the slate. If you go look at, like I said, the weather has been critical. But all those weather games, there's not one defense that's cheaper than the Bears defense.
Yep.
I like it.
That's it.
It's a good call. So the one defense I have that we hadn't talked about yet, I got the Panthers. It's basically, if you watch this show all season, you know when Jared Goff plays at home, it's home Goff. You play Jared Goff. When Jared Goff's on the road, you play the defense that's playing against Jared Goff. And that's basically what I'm doing with the Panthers at 2.3.
I agree.
They'll be lower owned than those 2 guys we just talked about.
I think you would have to mention the Cowboys. I think they're the chalk this week. I think most people will be playing the Cowboys, and for good reason, because they get Gardner Minshew. But I actually really like that Panthers call. I think that a lot of people will skip over them, right? They're going to be playing the Bears if they're going to punt, or they'll play the Eagles. I think the Panthers will go under-owned. And as I just talked about, playing an under-owned defense on a slate like this is a great way to get different.
Yeah, perfect example, I think, was 2 weeks ago when and the Cowboys were the super chalk defense. I played the Panthers, and the Panthers at half the price outscored both of them. So it worked out pretty well for me. All right, let's get to the stacks.
Going4two.com's weekly stack report.
All right, Tim, go ahead and give us your stack.
Yeah, I'm going back to my dude from last week, right? I told you, I think, how many times this year have I said when I play Vikings, I win money, right?
Yep.
It hurts my soul as a Packers fan, but it seems to be the theme of 2022. So I'm going right back to the well. Kirk Cousins, the fake-ass wide receiver one, Justin Jefferson, and I'm bringing it back with Darius Slayton. Of any of the New York Giants wide receivers, he's probably the one that I have the most faith in at 5,200. I think he also gives you the best option at a ceiling. So if I'm playing them in a tournament, that's the way I'm going.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? I don't think this has ever happened in the however long, 5 years we've talked about this. We've literally named all of the Giants wide receivers as plays for this week. I don't think that's ever happened.
Real quick, I want to give a shout out to the chat. We always talk about Scott from the chat posted a pic from Money Mike, as he calls him. And I was really shocked. He literally named every single Giant. He had Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Daniel Bellinger. And I was like, I can't do all that. But if you gave me one Giant and you told me I had to pick one, it's Darius Slayton.
Slayton is my
Who the fuck is Money Mike?
What was that?
Who's Money Mike?
I don't know. Tim, who's Money Mike?
I don't know. Some guy they listen to from some CBS Sports, I think.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right, Gerson,
I just like the screenshot.
What you got for your stacks?
Yeah, I got Minshew Mania, Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith,
Mike McClure.
and Don Close. So I'm going cheap. I'm doing double tight end with the Grim Reaper, Devonta Smith. To me, it's hard this week. Like the GPP, I said I look at it, I'm like, all right, you gotta stack the wide receiver, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, whatever. But this week, I think it's Patrick Mahomes or Minshew or bust.
Agreed.
It sounds crazy.
All the way up or all the way down?
Yeah, agreed 100%. I like that stack of and I was kind of torn too. I almost went that route as well, but I feel like I take the those chalky stacks every week, so I try to be a little bit different, but apparently not, because you all mentioned this guy's probably gonna be one of the higher owned quarterbacks. But I'm going with Mahomes, but I'm fading Kelsey in my stack. I'm going Mahomes, Juju, McKinnon, and bringing it back with Metcalf. It's a fairly expensive stack, but I do think that it could definitely pay off. I think, obviously the highest total game. If Juju keeps doing what he was doing, if McKinnon keeps pace what he's doing, and then Metcalf does his thing, I think it's going to pay off pretty well.
I'll give you this, Jeff. For as bad as your locks have been, your stacks have been on point, right? Last week you were all over the stack, so you're going to want to get some Mahomes exposure this week.
Absolutely. All right, now we're going to go to the segment that Gerson hates the most. We're going to quickly talk about the Sunday slate. We're going to keep it really short. We're just going to give one of our top plays from the Sunday slate and then one of our punt plays from the Sunday slate. It's a pretty ugly freaking slate. I got to admit, I had a hard time finding guys I really liked, but we're just going to mention it really quick. Gerson doesn't even have anybody mentioned. He's boycotting this segment altogether.
Hold on. The top play of the whole slate is Tua Tagovailoa.
Yep.
Great matchup. Jeff, why do you do this to me? Why?
Honestly, I will echo that. Go ahead. Just real quick, I agree. You're playing against my Packers, right? And I got to agree, right? I think you're playing the Dolphins. If you ask me who my top play on the slate is, it's Tyreek Hill, right? He's $9K. He's the most expensive play on the slate. But I think you have to find a way to pay up for him, because I'll be honest, Jair Alexander and Rasul Douglas and everybody else on Green Bay have no chance of being able to cover Tyreek Hill this week. If you combine that with the amount of volume he's been getting, he's just an absolute smash pot. So I think you have to find a way, if you're playing the Sunday slate, to get in Tyreek Hill.
All right, I like it. My top play is going to be AJ Dillon. Cleared of concussion at 5.7 versus Miami, who can't stop the run. Dillon's been getting a ton of work lately. He's been looking really good. He looks the beginning of the season, he looked like he was slow. He doesn't look slow anymore. He looks explosive now. So I don't know what changed, but he definitely looks a lot better now. At 5.7, I think his price fits in perfectly with any kind of build you want to have for tomorrow.
Yeah, since the bye, they've really been leaning on AJ Dillon, especially in the red zone, those high-value touches in the red zone.
Agreed. What do you have for your punt play here, Tim?
Yeah, I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to go with Big Bobby Tonyan. 3,700, he's my tight end play for the slate. Miami's really bad against tight ends. It's a way to get some cheaper exposure to that game. He's probably going to be my tight end play. I love the Tua. We talked about it's a 3-game slate, right? So you got to kind of onslaught. So Tua to Tyreek, bring it back with A.J. Dillon and Big Bobby Tunyon.
I like it. Gerson, do you have a punt play or no?
Yeah, I do. It's called Latavius Murray. I think Latavius Murray is going to play for sure. He's on the slate, right? I don't even know if he is or not. I'm kidding.
He said, I don't even know. Oh, you're the best.
No, Latavius Murray, man. He's definitely going to play. He was questionable earlier in the week, but for sure, it sucks, but he's going to play.
Yep.
He's very cheap. I think he's one of the best value on the slate. But honestly, I always say this. I do want to give this advice, though. If you're going to play a short slate like this, you do want to play players against your defense.
Yep.
You definitely want to do it. Because we saw with last week where the Colts defense went for 23 points.
Yep.
And guess what? The Vikings offense had the best. You have to do it sometime. But
I thought Gerson's advice would be like, all right, let me give you my advice about Sunday slate. Don't play it. I thought he was going to say,
hey, man, I would give that advice, but you told me you can't do it, G. you got to talk about it slate.
No, I actually love that call, G. That's great advice.
My punt play is actually probably a sick call for Sunday. The Rams basically have no receivers left. And I'm going with Brandon Johnson. He's at 3K. He's had 4 targets in 3 of the last 4 games. You know, Ben Skoranic's out. Of course, Cooper Kupp is out. Allen Robinson is out. They have no one to throw the ball to left. And I think
who the hell is Brandon Johnson?
Brandon Johnson, Rams wide receiver at 3K.
Wait, I have Brandon Powell. Is it not Brandon Powell?
It's Brandon Johnson. I'm like 95% sure. Powell is hold on, I'm gonna pull it up right now.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Brandon Powell. But let me tell you while you're looking that up. Let me tell you. Every time Jeff goes with one of these cheap-ass wide receivers, it's the other guy on his team that goes off, okay? So I'm going to say that it's actually going to be Tutu Atwell.
Tutu Atwell. Yeah, good call. Are you sure? I'm going to find it. I can't find it real quick, but I'm almost positive.
You need Jesus. That's what you need. You need Jesus.
I'm looking at the slate right now. I'm looking at all the Rams wide receivers. Your boy Lance McCutcheon is on here, right?
He's 3K.
Right above that is Brandon Powell.
Maybe I got the wrong. I got the names mixed up. I could have swore it was Brandon Johnson though, but I'll take your word for it. I can't seem to find it at the moment. But yeah, okay. So Brandon Powell at 3K. Either way, 3K receiver for the Rams. In Tim's right. I think these cheap guys.
Oh, there you go. Brandon Johnson is on the Broncos. He's on the other side.
On the other side. So I got the names mixed up. So yeah, it's Powell that I want. The Rams receivers who I want.
He wants Brandon.
Don't play Brandon Johnson. Play Brandon Powell.
Play Brandon Powell. Yes, yeah, exactly. All right, let's finish this up with our sick calls for the week.
That is a sick call.
And now, the sick call of the week.
All right, sick call of the week. So last week we were 1 for 3. I had the Rashid Shaheed pick.
You did. I do want to give it up to Gerson real quick, though. Jared Goff underthrew Jameson Williams on a wide open touchdown that he had to come back to that got knocked away. Should have been an easy touchdown, and Gerson would have hit that sick call. So, sorry, G.
Just missed. All right, Tim, what you got for your sick call?
Yeah, we talked about the ugliest game of the week is New Orleans and Cleveland, right? They have no wide receivers. Who are they going to throw it to? That's the touchdown machine, Juwan Johnson at 3,800. Right? Doesn't matter the win. We talked about it with Dawson Knox, right? In a win game, you want to play the tight ends, right? Andy Dalton is going to throw the ball 7-8 yards. When they get down into the red zone, he's going to look up, try and find Juwan Johnson and just throw it to him. So I don't know about punting. I actually think Daniel Bellinger is probably going to be the better play if you're going to punt. But if you want to play a guy at some exposure that nobody's going to have, I like Juwan Johnson.
All right, I like it. And so I went back and looked, and I pivoted to Brandon Johnson. That's why I did originally want a Rams receiver, and I think I just got myself confused. But it is Brandon Johnson that I wanted because the Broncos receivers are all hurt too. I think Hilton is out. Obviously, KJ Hamler is out. Johnson actually ran as the number 2 receiver last week next to Jerry Jeudy. So he's the one that's got the 4 targets in the last 3 of the last 4 games. So it is Brandon Johnson that I want playing for the Broncos at 3K. So just want to clear that up. My sick call my sit call is going to be Terrace Marshall at 3.6. We've talked about how bad Detroit is versus the pass. We talked about DJ Moore at 5.5 being viable. Marshall has been coming on a little bit hit and miss lately, but I do think against this Detroit defense, he's a sleeper play at 3.6. Definitely don't play a lot of him. He's not. I don't like him as much as I liked my pick last week with Rashid Shaheed. Marshall is not anywhere near that level, but at 3.6 versus a bad pass defense, I'll take a shot on him. Gerson, what you got for your sit call?
Well, I have Nelson Aguilar. I think with Jacoby Myers coming back in and then Nelson Aguilar, I think a lot of people were, including myself, was on Nelson Aguilar last week. I think this week, 3,300. Like, honestly, I'm not – this is a sick call. Like, honestly, if I could ever feel good about a sick call, it's definitely not this week.
Yeah.
It's kind of sick, right? But our sick call is a sick call for one reason, because it is what it is, and when we hit them, they're awesome. But when we don't hit them, we feel sick.
Yeah.
But Nelson Aguilar, I think last week, I was actually on him. Like, I told people in the chat room, like, I like Nelson Aguilar, I want to play him. And then all of a sudden, when it came to Sunday, all of a sudden I was like, hey, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good about the Texans wide receiver. Not Chris Moore. What is the third wide receiver? Shit, I forgot his name already.
Dorsett?
That's how bad it was.
Philip Dorsett?
Phil Dorsett?
No, not Phil Dorsett.
Amari Rogers?
Yeah, Amari Rogers. I said, I like Amari Rogers this week. I'm like, am I going from Phil Dorsett to Amari Rogers? And I always said that I like Nelson Aguilar. Like, that's how bad it was. But I think Nelson Aguilar, if you get 80 yards, that's awesome.
That's all you need. All right, fellas, let's go around the room here. Ran a little bit long tonight, even though we didn't break the Sunday slate down, but it's all good. It's week 16. We can do that. Tim, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, jump in DFS Roundtable. Check out my weekly thread. I post the best charts and graphs from all around the internet, so you don't have to find them. And then, of course, you can find me on Twitter at KetoDFS.
Good stuff. Gerson?
Well, first off, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yes.
Honestly, good holidays. Or Happy Hanukkah, I guess you could say. Or, yeah, just celebrate with your family. First off, second off, shout out to Tim. Stuck it out the whole show. Mad prop. I was a couple weeks ago, and I didn't even come on the show, but to Tim, mad prop, dude. Happy holidays and everything. And are we doing next week?
I'd like to thank my good friend Dallas Blonde for helping me get through the show.
Good stuff.
Yeah, but you can find me at the Fancy DFS. I don't think we're gonna have a Sunday show, of course, because it's Christmas. But
there will be a Saturday show. Zach said he's having a Saturday show, so you could tune in tomorrow morning if you want. I don't know who's going to show up. He said whoever wants to show up, he's going to be there Saturday. So I don't know. Gerson doesn't seem to know about. I think Gerson. He told Gerson on the holiday show, but he was too drunk to remember.
I'll be there.
But yeah, there's supposed to be a Saturday show. I don't know who's coming on. Is Zach got anybody to come on? But Zach will be on tomorrow at some point, 11:30.
Oh, I'll be there with Zach.
Hey, we talked about it earlier in the show. I just want to plug it one more time. If there's ever a slate where you want to be on the late breaking news tomorrow morning, right? You have to be pay attention because it can change the whole slate.
Yeah, you know what could change? The weather. You know what I mean? Like if one of these games has weather where all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's going to be a lot clearer than we thought it was going to be. That changes a lot of things because I think we're basing a lot of things on the weather right now. So, 100%.
Are we Jesus?
What?
Are we Jesus? How are we gonna change the weather? The weather is the weather.
I mean,
there's no way the weather's gonna change that much.
I'm saying the weather could change at any point.
Oh.
All right, guys. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. For Tim, for Gerson, we will see y'all next week.
Ho, ho, ho!
You don't say go Pat Go because they suck.